Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Music Meltdown. Talking about ska today. The fuck do people talk about ska on YouTube? Um, Talking about the band Streetlight Manifesto. I already
First
fucked it
time.
up. Let's
First one.
go.
First time saying the
Yes.
name.
Um, this is Grant's pick of an artist for us to do. I know jack shit about these guys. I know at least the lead singer used to be in Catch 22.
It
I
was
know nothing
him,
about them either,
the
but
bassist, and the trombonist. And the trombonist
from bonus.
was the music teacher for one of the guys in Catch 22. Cool
It's
little
Catch
fact
22
there.
right there. Uh,
End it. It's
it's
see ya. That was the
it's a wrapped
ranking.
up.
Yeah,
No,
that
but
was
yeah,
the rank.
five records. Decided to include the cover one this time because fuck it, who cares about consistency? Um, I like I said, I know nothing about this band. They were certainly something. Grant, express your deep-seated love and appreciation for all things Streetlight.
Oh man. So for me, Streetlight Manifesto represents I feel like the best example of how much of third wave ska in a sense of like the new, you know, kind of bands like, like Real Big Fish and all these other groups that came out. I feel like these guys have the best chops, they have the best tight instrumentation, really hitting lyricism that isn't just like, I'm sad and I'm in high school and this girl said no and that sucks and my entire week is ruined. These guys are talking about some like real actual deep shit, philosophical shit. And it was just, I don't know. They to me, they're the best representation of what third wave ska could be in some of those, especially in some of those early records. And I'm gonna definitely can't wait to talk about them in detail.
Alrighty. Figure we'll just get into it here. The bottom record. I'll be honest, there's not a ton of separation between these for me. So it just sort of is what it is. At the bottom for me, I'm going with 99 Songs of Revolution Volume 1. Where the fuck's Volume 2? You guys broke up. You didn't make Volume 2. The fuck? I'm disappointed. You left me hanging. No, it sounds more of a tone setter for this series than anything. I'm not a huge fan of ska in general. I don't like dislike it or anything. I think that it's fun, but it's just not really. I'm not going out of my way to listen to ska, if that makes sense. But they're pretty good at it. Horns are cool, and I like how they sort of envelop these songs and make it their own. My favorite thing about the group, however, is the songwriting, and this has none of their songwriting. So that's gonna hurt it. Although I think it's good. I think it's a solid listen. I can't go below 3.5. I think it's a good album. I just don't really care that much. Give me your own songs that I think are better. So there you go. 99
So
Songs of Revolution.
it's gonna be an easy beginning, as that is my number five as well. 99 Songs of Revolution, Volume One. The story behind that was that it was actually supposed to be like Volume One was going to be them, Volume Two was supposed to be another band, and then Volume Three and Four were supposed to be those two bands, like kind of mixing some stuff together and doing stuff. I don't know. I can't remember if the other volumes even came out, but it was something for like some like organization kind of thing, or like some magazine or record label or something like that. But yeah, it is completely all just covers, and it's a fun trip, they're good. They're all great musicians. They're covering great songs. So, they're not messing them up. They're not destroying the legacy of them. But it is just for the most part, each one is like, I don't think they do a single cover better than the original. Which I mean, if you're gonna do cover album, if you're doing a whole album of covers, I'm hoping at least one or two of them is gonna be like, damn, that's like on par with that. I would say the only one that's close to being on par is Hell, which is a Squirrel Nut Zippers cover. And I love that. And the only reason why I don't think they beat that is because Squirrel Nut Zippers themselves is a swing revival band. And just that whole structure of that song fits that so much better. And it's like they do a great job of it, but again, most of them I'm just like I'd rather listen to the original. Like I heard the Paul Simon cover and I was just like, oh, I just want to listen to the Paul Simon song right now. Like I just want to listen to that now. So I actually had that at a 3. I It's fun, it's cool, but I don't think there's a single song on there that I'm gonna like return to.
Officially confirmed. I like this band more than Grant does because I like the
Stop
cover
the
record
count.
more.
Stop the count.
I will say the only one that I like immediately picked up on is Just, which just
Yeah, that was an
simply
interesting one too.
doesn't just simply I mean Just isn't one of my favorite songs on the
I love
bends, but
Just.
we'll leave it at that. Next one, I feel like we're gonna talk about the same one here. Their final record, The Hands That Thieve. There's not a lot to really say here. It's a blending of ska, emo, and pop punk. I like the less traditional instrumentation here, but the horns, the crowd vocals are solid. How they sort of like bring in the band and whatnot. It's fun. The music is fast paced. It's exciting. I just rarely find myself properly engaged within the material, aside from the title track itself, which I think is really great, and near the end, Oh Me Oh My, which are both excellent tracks. It's just them at their sort of least pinnacle of their playing. They feel tired by this point. You aren't getting the better songs out of them. It's just a solid release. I can listen to it, but am I ever going back to this one? No, probably not. So yeah, I'm at 3.5 for it still. I think it's good, but notably weaker than the records that came prior to it. So number 4.
I agree with you there. Number 4, Hands of Thief. It is also has a little sour spot because it's kind of just like that record that kind of ended things. Essentially, they were having a lot of problems with like their label. They wanted to release it, I think, in like the summer of 2012, but the label basically wouldn't let them do anything with it until like I think April 30th of 2013. So like almost a whole year later. And it just very much soured their whole experience with that. They haven't really released an album since then. Obviously, they still tour, they still play, but they're not really making anything new. And it just kind of sucks, you know. It has that bad taste in your mouth. And then add on top of it, it just doesn't have that same energy. I feel like ska is one of those really hard ones to grow with. You know, it's a very young, youthful genre. I feel like, especially in like those highly energetic third wave kind of ska groups. So when you're getting older, it's a matter of like, how are you going to mature this sound or how are you going to keep that youthful energy somehow? And I mean, it just kind of doesn't have that same feel to it. Um, Also, I feel like the production of it just feels massively overproduced. It doesn't have a lot of the raw, a little more of the raw feeling, a little more of like the natural feel of some of those early records. This just kind of feels like that later band making an album kind of production sound to it. I did really like the opening track though. I did think that was a fantastic track. Title track is another really good one. But again, there's just not many songs on here that I really return to. Like listening to it again, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh wow, yeah, I like don't remember any of these songs from the first time I listened to it. So it just doesn't have anything. It doesn't have anything very memorable about it. I'm at more 3.5 for it. So I did move up, but it's a pretty weak 3.5. So, but still, again, still it's fantastic playing. It's just it's like missing something.
I will say, even with 3 listens, I mean, you might disagree on this. I figure I'll just let the cat out of the bag. A lot of their songs kind of sound the same. So, like, it's going to be hard to distinguish their weaker ones from their better ones, especially on a weaker crop of material. So, they tried. I feel like this is where we're going to start to diverge. And if we don't, we're going to have the same list. Number 3 for me, I have Keasbey Nights. I think that this is a good record. I don't think it's lyrically as sharp as their debut. I wonder why that could be. However, the tracks have the same level of spark, energy, and drive to them. Most of my issues are more than likely just due to my lack of familiarity with ska as a genre. Aside from a lot of the more acoustic led tracks, they sound very similar to me. And while an enjoyable time, it's just not necessarily my favorite thing in the world. And to stress on it's not lyrically as sharp, probably because it's an album that got released 5 years prior by a different band. This is a re-recorded version of the Catch 22 record of the same name. Should I have listened to that in preparation for this? Yes. Did I? No. So yeah, 3.5 stars for Keasbey Nights. It's pretty good. Just a bit of a disappointment coming after the debut, I would say. for me at least.
Interesting. Yeah, it is. I mean, would it have changed if you had heard the beginnings? Maybe a little bit, just because you kind of would have heard. I would say that if you really listen to the Catch 22 album, it almost sounds very demo-ish, you know? It sounds almost like demos, and then I feel like the Streetlight Manifesto album sounds a little more like this is the end product after they gave in the demo disc and they were like, sweet, record that here. And then they recorded that. And then because everything has just a little more pep in the step, a little more like everything feels more aligned. But we'll get to that, of course, in just a bit. We do diverge. My number 3, somewhere in the between. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is that a lot of their albums, especially the 2 best ones, or these up here, they have like that their concept albums. They kind of focus on something. And for this one, it's focusing on the idea of organized religion and higher powers. The album cover itself depicts, the heaven, the hell, and then somewhere in the between, which is where we are. But yeah, right? I know, it's so clever. But yeah, this is, I mean, again, it has all the great things that are making Streetlight what they are, and how, all fun. The opening track is quite possibly one of my favorite Streetlight tracks. The whatchamacallit, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. We Will Fall Together. Absolutely love it. Just has so much energy, the way it cuts in. The other big thing too, I feel like those, of course, the cover album didn't have great lyrics because it's mostly covers, and the last one didn't have anything that really stood out, but this album still has a lot of the great lyrical hits that I love. I absolutely love the theming of the opening track too, where it's basically talking with a person who, saw religion as heavy, and he, basically is everything. And Thomas Kalnoky, the lead singer, is basically saying like, I want to see your face when like none of this fucking matters, when you spent your life doing this and like it didn't mean anything, because it's just, I mean, I don't want to get off on the tangent of like religion, but just like the idea of like there's a lot of religions out there, and like only one of them is going
Jesus.
to be right. Right? It's like there's a lot of religions out there, and theoretically only one of them is going to be right. So there's a lot of people who are going to be very surprised in in the moment that none of us can even possibly fathom, our moment of death. But the lyrics, I once knew a guy obsessed with the afterlife. Oh, what a terrible day that was when he realized he wasted all his time. And just like, I don't know, it's very stinging to me. Down, Down, Down to Mephisto's Cafe is another really great one. Very sing-along kind of melody on the trumpet track. The chorus, of course, is so much fun to sing. Watch It Crash has a really great build, has an incredibly infectious chorus that I absolutely adore. Love all the tempo changes for the title track as well. I feel like that track goes over really well. One Foot in the Gas and One Foot in the Grave is another great one. But yeah, it does kind of, peter out there. I don't feel like the ending gets too great for me. I do have this at a weak 4.5 though. This is they fall off hard for me, but these 3 albums are incredible for me.
Bit of a jump there. Okay. Ooh, respect Circle K cup there. Nice.
How we roll.
Anyways, my
79
list,
cents,
there's
baby.
actually a minor switch up from whenever I first made the list between my number 1 and my number 2. And my number 2 is going to be somewhere in the between. So I imagine we line up here. I like this about the same as every other record. I'm at 3.5 for it. It's a good album. At the end of the day, I just don't love third wave ska. I don't really love ska that much in general. I think that the band has great energy. The horns are outstanding. It's easily my favorite part of the group. For me, this one is just a bit, I don't know. Whenever I first listened to this, my impression was I thought that this was a step up from the debut, but whenever I went back to it, I actually felt like the debut had more things that like immediately popped to me. I thought that the songs were a bit tighter in their construction. And I thought that they gave you more room to breathe and whatnot, if that makes sense. Whereas this one, like, it just sort of goes full stop. And it's good. I like it. It's a fun burst of energy. It's a solid time. But the songs blend in a lot for me on this one, as they also do on the debut, but I'd say a little bit less so. And I don't know. I just sort of inherently struggled with this group, as I don't think that they're good for a dive, for one thing. And for two, it's just like, it's sort of the issues of the genre, not really the band. So, best songs for me were With One Foot on the Gas and The Blonde Led the Blind. I like it. I like this band, but ultimately, they're not like my favorite thing in the world, but I think that they're really solid. So I'm at 3.5, or somewhere in the between. My number two.
All right. So you are definitely right, though. We are going to be at the same at the top. My number two is Keasbey Nights, the remake of the Catch 22 material. Again, as I was kind of saying earlier, it is just one of those things where it's like, while the Catch 22 album almost felt like a demo, this feels like the completed project. It sounds like what the ideal vision was in mind. And this also comes because after they had been playing and touring these songs, so they played these songs, they put them on an album, and then they tour with Catch 22, playing these live, getting tighter, getting down, getting these instrumentations and all these little stops and goes and getting all these little synchronizations all completely down. And then we're able just to bring that energy to, like, completely tenfold when they actually go and release the album and like record the whole thing. Uh yeah, this, I mean, I don't really have too many weak songs on this album. The opening track, Dear Sergio, like, just great infectious energy. Love the, Dear Sergio, singing the chorus. Sick and Sad's a great song. The title track is, I mean, I don't know how, if I don't know how, like, when you were listening to it, if you were like, I don't know if you like singing along to things, but like that's one of those ones where, like, by the ending chorus, like, you can you know the words. When they come for me, I'll be sitting at my desk with a gun in my hand, wearing a bulletproof vest, singing "Bye, my, how the time just fly when you know you're gonna die by the end of the night." Say, hey, it's very, you're supposed to basically be able to have like a crowd of people and be able to like have that, just have everyone frigging going crazy to that part. It's just, it's so great. I have so much fun with these albums. I love them so much, dude. Walking Away has a really cool, interesting beat and sound to it. Day in, Day Out's another one that I love. I love singing that like pre-chorus at the top of my freaking lungs every time I hear it, where he's like, I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone to tell me what to feel. It's just, I don't know. They're just, there's songs that you can just scream, and it feels so cathartic to sing along to these tracks, knowing like they're so self-empowering. They're so like, like, tighten up and be the best you can be kind of thing. It's just they're like, fight for yourself, fight for who you are. And like that attitude, that feeling is so strong and infectious along so much of what Thoroughways Golf pretty much is. But I feel like Streetlight does a really great job with it. It's a strong 4.5. Some days I could see myself going to a 5, but like, if I'm gonna be honest with myself, I'll say 4.5, because if anything, it makes the next ones that much more special, which it is.
The first one is special because it is the first one. Both of our number ones, Everything Goes Numb. And I am at a crisp 3.5. It is a good record. I like this band. I like pretty much all the records.
The more you say it, the less I believe you.
No, to clarify, this one is by far the closest to a 4. Like, I maybe thought of it for like a brief moment for content, but decided on 3.5. It's a solid debut for the group. It introduces you to their very recognizable mismatch of like emo, a bit of ska, alt rock, and some folk in there as well. The arrangements and styles are a lot of fun, and I really dig the production on here. It's really punchy. The horns really cut into everything nicely. I think it's really fun, which, like I mentioned before, that's my standout sort of naturally. I just really like the horns on here. And the drum work across this record is really great as well. My main issue boils down to, just to me, a lot of the ska songs sound about the same. it's just sort of how I interpret the genre. It just sort of is what it is. And it does make it a very good listening experience, but I struggle to highlight the individual moments or songs. However, when listening to it, I think it's a really fun, a really consistent ride that I do quite enjoy. It's a strong 3.5. I taunted with 4 briefly. Did I go for it? No, but I did think about it. So yeah, I think it's quite a good record. 3.5 stars. I like it.
All 3.5 stars.
All 3.5 stars.
Straight line.
Solid progression.
Consistent, really.
Well, really regression, because I think that my list is like the exact reverse order of how they released, pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, actually, literally, that is what mine is. My listing is basically the best album, and then every album is just slightly less.
We tried.
But everything goes
next
numb.
time, boys.
Yeah, right. We'll see. I wish someday they release more stuff, but we'll see. And again,
Probably.
do I? Well, no. But anyway, yeah. Number 1, everything goes numb. This album, so this definitely has a little bit of that like personal connotation to it. I remember like the first time hearing this album, being in a pretty, just I don't know, middle school, in these weird dark places all the time. I've had depression for a lot of years, and like just some of the things that I talked about in this album are just like felt like having someone who is like just next to you, being like it's like, we can do this, dude. We can get through this. Like, I promise we'll make it. That very strong camaraderie feeling that this album has. Obviously, it's an entire concept album on the idea of suicide and the appreciation of life. Everything goes numb is essentially, when you're dying, everything starts to go numb is kind of the whole idea of the title. The title track, I feel like the way it kicks off is brilliant. Just that having the bum 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 dun 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 dun. It's just like, I don't know if I'm saying the right region or whatnot, but there's a lot of like Middle Eastern melodies like that are kind of like mixed throughout these tracks, and it gives it such an interesting different feel to it. It's something that like is distinct. Whenever I hear these songs, I'm able to be like, I can differentiate them and be like, no, I know who that is. I know that Streetlight Manifesto. You can hear it in like the aggressive drumming that's going through with all the insane, crazy tight fills that lead into like crazy fill landing into a hit, a couple of like start and stop hits, and then going into a chorus. Like, to have those so well down is really like, and to make it look so easy is really just an appreciation and showing of how well the band is able to the chemistry and the way that they're able to play, and they know each other, they know their music, they know their part, they know to do what they have to do, and it makes, they know that if they all do their parts, it's going to make this song fantastic. But yeah, that opening track is absolutely phenomenal. Point Counterpoint is another one of those songs that just really gets to me, telling the story of how he came close to ending his life, and he's trying to talk his friend out of it. The lyrics near the end where he's literally talking about waiting on the other side in another room, thinking like he's just waiting for the sound of a gun to go off, and he's just like, if he hears that sound, he knows what that means, and he goes the night without hearing it, and he's just like, fuck it, thank you, I love, he's just like literally blows up with excitement at the idea that like his friend didn't, and like his friend is still with him. It's a very personal connection. If and When We Rise Again is another one that's really cool. Actually, is quoting the melody of the Hungarian Dance Number 5 by Johannes Brahms. Nice little classical track. Kind of does it near the end. Has almost that little Hebrew kind of like da 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 da, like just very like sing along, very danceable, very like meant to get you moving, meant to get you excited for a track. And then the absolute crown jewel of this album is Better Time, a Better Place, which is, I mean, that listening to that song, sometimes I can't even like stop myself from tearing up on that thing, because it's I don't know, the way how direct and soothing the chorus is, where he's just saying, and when you wake up, everything is going to be fine. Like, I guarantee you wake in a better place and a better time. So you're tired of living. You feel like you might give in. Well, don't. It's not your time. And then just like the end of the song, he's like, even if it was so, I wouldn't let you go. I'd run, run, run. You know, oh, it just, it's so incredibly touching. It's just so like the idea I've had to do this very thing that he's doing, where you're begging with someone like, I'm trying to help you find a reason to stay here, because we really do like you and appreciate you. And we want you around, and like fighting someone's own feelings on that. It's so hard to put into words and describe. And I feel like all these songs deal with it very well, deal with the subject matter that it's the heavy subject matter that it's doing and portraying. It deals with it very well. Has very poignant things to say, has important things to say, and delivers those messages really well. And then another one that's just always really great, Here's to Life, is talking about people that passed away from suicide. So people, Ernest Hemingway, he talks about Vincent van Gogh. He mentions KDC, which is Kurt Donald Cobain. So he's talking about, basically some of his heroes. He talks of Camus, who is a philosopher, and he talked about suicide in a lot of his works. And he was even quoted as saying, there's only one really serious philosophical question, and that is suicide. Deciding whether or not life is worth living is the answer to the fundamental question of philosophy, as all other questions follow from that. And it's just, it's a very, it's a very interesting thing to think about. And then, and Moment of Silence and Moment of Violence, the way that Moment of Silence is like kind of the anthemic, piece, and then Moment of Violence is basically that, but just ramped up and faster. I really love that. I think that's extremely cool, done really well. This album's a 5 out of 5 if there ever was one for me. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is the like Abbey Road of ska, a third wave ska. It's the best album you can ever hope to get from this genre, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah.
It's all right. I guess so.
But yeah, I am glad that you've been able to derive so much enjoyment and passion from this record. There is my corporate dialogue. Alrighty, but no, in all honesty, I am glad for you. That being said, that was Streetlight Manifesto, as blatantly established. They got worse as they kept doing it. Holy shit, the last album has a 3.61 on RYM?
People love Streetlight Manifesto. I mean, plus they're fans. Like, again, I don't think I'm alone in saying that a lot of third wave ska people would say that Streetlight Manifesto is one of the best to do this line of ska.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, they're good. I like them. Might not show, but I like them. Any sort of closing remarks here, or do you think that we've sort of gone over it all?
Streetlight Manifesto is the best. That's my closing. That is my closing remark.
They're good. I like them.
They're great.
So yeah,